I am 101 years old. My name is Thomas Briggs, and I want to tell you about the night I chose who would live. Not because I wanted to, because there was nobody else left to do it. I was born in Newport, Rhode Island on June 2nd, 1925. My father was a fisherman. My grandfather was a fisherman before him. In Newport, in those days, the sea was not something you admired from a distance. It was something you worked, something you respected, something that could take you without warning and without apology. My father told me that when I was very young. Thomas, he said, the ocean doesn't care about you. Remember that. Go out on it anyway, but never forget it. I never forgot it. I enlisted in the U.S. Navy on June 3rd, 1943, one day after my 18th birthday. My father drove me to the enlistment office himself. He didn't say much on the way. When I got out of the truck, he reached over and put his hand on my arm for a moment. You know the sea, he said. That's more than most of them will. He was right. It didn't make the night of November 14th, 1943 any easier. But he was right. They assigned me to the USS Callaway, a destroyer escort operating in the North Atlantic. Our job was convoy protection, escorting merchant ships across the Atlantic, watching for German U-boats, keeping the supply lines open. The North Atlantic in 1943 was one of the most dangerous stretches of water in the world. German submarines operated in wolf packs, coordinating attacks on Allied convoys. The water temperature in November was between 38 and 42 degrees Fahrenheit. A man in the water without a survival suit had between 15 and 30 minutes before hypothermia made him unable to move. We knew these things. We thought about them in the way you think about things that might happen to someone else. My station was damage control. When something went wrong aboard ship, my job was to respond, contain flooding, fight fires, keep the vessel alive long enough for the crew to survive. I was good at it. I was calm under pressure. My chief petty officer, a man named Kowalski from Detroit, told me 3 weeks into my assignment that I had the best damage control instincts he had seen in a new sailor. I thanked him. 2 months later, I would need every one of those instincts. November 14th, 1943, 2:23 in the morning. We were 3 days out of Halifax, escorting a convoy of 14 merchant ships. The night was dark and the sea was running heavy, 6-foot swells. Wind out of the northwest at 25 knots, visibility poor. The torpedo hit us on the port side, just forward of the engine room. I was below decks when it struck. The impact threw me off my feet. The lights went out immediately. Emergency lighting came on, red and dim. The alarm was already sounding. I knew what the sounds meant before anyone told me. The rush of water, the angle of the deck shifting beneath my feet, the particular groan of a ship that is deciding whether to fight or surrender. The Callaway was not going to fight. I made my way to my damage control station. The flooding was catastrophic. The torpedo had opened a hole in the hull that no amount of damage control was going to close. We had minutes, not hours. The order to abandon ship came at 2:31, 8 minutes after the torpedo hit. I came up through a hatch onto the main deck. The scene was controlled chaos. Men moving to their abandoned ship stations, life rafts being deployed. The cold hitting immediately, the kind of cold that makes you gasp when it finds the gap between your collar and your neck. Our life raft stations were on the port side. I reached mine and helped deploy the raft into the water. Standard Navy issue designed to hold 6 men in survival conditions. The Callaway was going down fast. The bow was already under. The stern was rising. We had perhaps 2 minutes before she went. I counted the men at my station, 11. I looked at the raft, 6 spaces, maybe 7 if men held on the outside. But in 40-degree water, a man hanging off the outside of a raft in November in the North Atlantic would not last long enough to matter. 6 spaces, 11 men. I was the senior man at that station. Our officer had not made it up from below. The math was mine to solve. I have been asked over the years how I made the decision, what process I used, what criteria. The honest answer is that I didn't have a process. I had about 90 seconds and 11 men looking at me. I chose the youngest first, 2 men, both 18 years old. Then I chose the 2 men I knew were injured, not because injury gave them priority, but because injured men in the water would die faster than healthy ones. Then I looked at the remaining 7 men, and I chose the 2 who I knew had families waiting. Men who had shown me photographs, men who had talked about going home. The last space I took myself, not because I deserved it, because someone had to manage the raft, and I knew how. 5 men stayed in the water. I have said their names in my mind every day since November 14th, 1943. I will not say them here. They belong to their families, not to a story. The Callaway went under at 2:39, 16 minutes after the torpedo hit. We were in that raft for 4 hours and 11 minutes. I know the exact time because I counted every minute of it. The 5 men who had stayed in the water were gone within the first 40 minutes. The water was 39 degrees that night. I watched it happen. There was nothing I could do from the raft. I did not look away. I felt that I owed them that much. To witness it, to not turn my face from what my decision had meant for them. The 6 of us on the raft held on through the night. We kept each other talking. We moved our arms and legs to maintain circulation. We did not sleep. We did not stop. A destroyer from our escort group found us at 6:50 in the morning, all 6 alive, hypothermic, exhausted but alive. When they pulled me over the rail, I sat down on the deck and could not move for a long time. The sailor who had helped pull me up crouched beside me. "You are right," he said. I looked at him. "No," I said. He nodded. He didn't say anything else. I think he understood. The Navy's after-action review concluded that I had acted correctly under the circumstances. The language they used was precise and careful, demonstrated sound judgment in an impossible situation, actions consistent with survival protocol. I read those words and felt nothing. My commanding officer spoke to me privately. He was a good man. He told me that what I had done was necessary, that no one could have saved all 11, that the 5 men who stayed in the water understood that someone had to make the call. I don't know if that last part was true. I hope it was. I was given leave and sent home to Newport for 3 weeks. My father met me at the door. He looked at my face. He didn't ask what happened. He said, "Come in, your mother has dinner ready." We sat at that table and ate together, and nobody said anything about the North Atlantic. And somehow, that was exactly right. I came back to the Navy after my leave. I served until the end of the war. I requested reassignment to a different type of duty. I did not want to return to convoy escort work in the North Atlantic. The Navy honored that request. I came home for good in the fall of 1945. I was 20 years old. I married a woman named Margaret in 1948. We had 51 years together before she passed. 3 sons, 9 grandchildren, 15 great-grandchildren. I went back to the sea, not the Navy sea, my father's sea. I worked on fishing boats out of Newport for 22 years, the same waters my grandfather had worked. The same cold, indifferent Atlantic that had taken my ship and 5 of my men on a November night in 1943. I went back because I needed to, because running from it would have meant letting it own me. The ocean doesn't care about you. My father told me that. I knew it was true. I went out on it anyway. I am 101 years old. I have never fully made peace with what happened on that raft. I don't think I was supposed to. Those 5 men deserved their lives. They deserved to come home. They deserved everything that I have had in the 80 years since that night. And they didn't get it. Not because of anything they did wrong. Not because they were less deserving. Because there were 6 spaces and 11 men, and the math didn't care about fairness. I have tried to live in a way that honored what they lost. I don't know if I succeeded. I only know that I tried. My oldest son asked me once when he was maybe 30 years old, "Dad, do you think you made the right choices that night?" I thought about that for a long time. I made the only choices that were available. I said finally, whether they were right, I'll never know. He nodded. He was quiet for a moment. "I think that's enough," he said. I hope he was right. Here is what I want you to know. There will be moments in your life when the choices available to you are not the choices you would have designed. When the raft holds 6 and you are standing in front of 11. When there is no good answer, only the least bad one. When whatever you choose, something is lost. In those moments, you have to choose anyway. Paralysis is also a choice, and it is usually the worst one. Choose, do your best with what you have, and then carry what comes after with as much honesty and as much grace as you can find. That is all any of us can do. The 5 men who stayed in the water that night in the North Atlantic, I have carried them with me every day. I will carry them until I have no more days left to carry anything. That is not a burden. It is the least I owe them. If this story meant something to you, hold the people in your life a little closer today, because the raft is never as big as we wish it was, and the water is always cold.